Welcome to another round of the Salty Takeaway. And yes, it is going to be a bitter end as we get toward discussing what happened in New England with Atlanta United losing to the Revs in Foxborough. And the final score was 2-1. And we'll get into what you folks think on Twitter. For those of you who were looking at the Soccer Down Here Twitter account and letting us know your initial thoughts after the match was over, we'll give you the thoughts of Nick and Jarrett and myself as we go for the next 30 minutes. First and foremost, Nick, let me start with you. When the lineup card came out, what'd you think?
I was okay with the idea of Torres up top. I understood why. Obviously, Lissandro Lopez couldn't be there, and of course, our thoughts go out to him and his family. Understood also not starting Joseph in this game as well. You want to make sure that he's 100% A-okay physically as well as mentally, and I just don't think he's there yet. So I'm okay with the lineup. I will say that I'm not sure why you're necessarily doing a heavy squad rotation right now. It just seemed like there were different ways to go, but I'm going to trust that the sports science people who have access to all the information have obviously a ton more information than I have. So I'm going to take their word on why that needed to be done. It just seemed a little weird as a person watching the game from home, because you're more than likely not coming back against Philly. So the lineup was what it was for me. I wasn't terribly impressed, but at the same time, it is what it is.
Jarrett, what about you when you saw that card come out?
A little bit surprised. I think the one that surprises me the most is the Miles Robinson one, because he is that rock in the back. I expected, if you were going to pull somebody off, I expected it to be White, and it wasn't. It was Robinson who comes off to start the game, and you have Franco in there. And I get it in the sense that until we hear from Heinze, and we haven't heard from him, I'm assuming he's trying guys out and seeing what combinations work and seeing what combinations don't work, because it's hard to find out these things without testing them with live ammunition at times. And it just wasn't meant to be tonight, because you started the game, I thought, well, in the first 10 minutes or so, and then, man, New England just rolled on you for a while.
Right.
They got the one goal. They created a lot of opportunities. I think you did have some heavy legs. So Santiago Sosa just looks absolutely beat at the end of the game tonight. It looks like the legs are just made of iron at the end of the game, and I felt for him there. The Kubo, it made sense in the moment, in that I thought because I questioned when he came on Tuesday against Philadelphia, but I thought he played well Tuesday. When he came on, I thought he did pretty well, and it just wasn't there tonight. And it's a game like this. I don't know if he's the guy for this game. I mean, he's dropping back. He doesn't have the wheels really to pop that counter. I mean, you'd love to have Joseph, but you can't have him. Jackson Conway isn't necessarily that guy. So I don't know what you would have done differently, but I mean, yeah, it was a heavy rotation. You get Dom and you get Mulroney out there, which is good for speed when you think about the fact that you have Tejan Buchanan and Brandon Bai out there on the outside backs, who love to get forward, as we all saw. They love to get forward. If you can keep them a little bit honest and occupy that space, it's a good way to kind of go about life. But it didn't work out, and I mean, you got to have, because of Marcelino Moreno had two absolutely amazing plays. The little body feint for the first shot where he curls it past the outside post, past the far post. But the little body feint there almost hurt my knee, and he absolutely broke whoever the hell was covering him. And then he gets by Brandon Bai and just absolutely cooks him alive. He flayed the poor kid, and it worked out very well to get the PK, but then it just you really weren't able to build on it, unfortunately.
And then Nick, go ahead and wrap your point there. Go ahead.
No, I agree with a lot of what Jarrett said. I know a lot of people are giving grief about the idea of starting Moreno out wide. and you're wanting Moreno to occupy that 10 role, that enganche role, that free-flowing attacking midfielder role. But this is not what Heinz is trying to do. He's trying to get playmakers out on the wings. You're going to get them in one-on-one situations. You're going to allow them to approach and attack the back line from which an odd angle for you typically don't see 10s drifting out that wide and trying to build from the side like that. But that's what Heinz is trying to do. And it's going to take a little bit of time for Moreno to look completely comfortable there, but you're starting to see more flashes, I think, of what his abilities are. And once he gets to be more comfortable, then I think we're going to start seeing that project bear fruit. But the idea of starting Dom, I thought was great until Dom got hurt, and then it changed your entire game from
until he blew a tire.
From that moment on, that and the yellow card early on were just absolute game changers for me from the first moment.
All right, so let's kind of go through the first 45 here, and you had the Jarrett, you mentioned the early Moreno moment in the 7th where Matt Turner had to come up big for the save. In the 17th, you had Jake Mulroney come up with the yellow on with his contact with Tejan Buchanan. You had Kessler go off the post. Then 2 minutes later, Brandon Bai gets the first goal on the board. It looked like Ibarra was late in trying to mark Bai, who got it in the back of the net.
The set pieces are one of the last things you're going to work on installing something. And they said they've been working on set pieces. It's still a stress point for Atlanta United. It has been for a while, and it was again tonight, because even when you have the header go off the post, when you have that, it feels like there's always at least 2 moments in these games where Atlanta somebody's late covering or somebody loses their man, and it's always on a situation where it's a perfect ball to the right location, and then it's a gut punch when it happens. Because other than that, you had some luck. Look, Atlanta has had the post hit on them 4 times in the last 2 weeks now. You've had some luck go your way on that front. You shouldn't apologize for that luck. You should do better on these set pieces, and something you got to work on. And it's something I think I still go back to. For me, I still go back to, you miss Joseph on defensive set pieces because he takes the front post out of the equation entirely. Of course, that didn't matter against Philadelphia with that ball that just bounced through the box, and and Miles is late getting to his guy. But you do take away the front post entirely, and you can focus on other things. And it just feels like they're still trying to find their footing with those set pieces, and it's just always a chance to get punched in the diaphragm.
With set pieces from a defensive perspective, in my opinion, it's something where you need to know assignments. It's not as quite as cookie cutter as, all right, everybody grab a man and just get the ball out. There's a certain amount of instruction that Brad needs to be issuing. You go here, do this, occupy this space, leave him alone, watch this runner, things like that. For the ball to fall in that close to the goal mouth and being in, it was missed assignments and miscommunication, in my opinion. And that's something that has to be worked out. We're talking a couple of games in a row, one where the ball went through the 18, might as well have been doing a cross-country trip in a Lincoln Continental. It just seemed like the ball just coasted right past everybody for the past couple of games. And in this one, it's ping, ping, ping right in front of the goal. You have to sort out the communication issues in the back on set pieces. And that's something that's going to have to be worked on in the training ground. I saw miscommunication a couple of times from a defensive standpoint in this game. We can get into where the penalty came in. I didn't think it was a penalty, but hey, look, for New England,
I think you're in a majority opinion, and Jarrett and I were going back and forth on that particular moment. And for I think for the two of us, and I think that Jarrett, you and I were in agreement here, it really didn't look like the evidence was there to overturn what we were looking at from the initial call.
If I can, before Jarrett jumps
Go for
in,
it. Yeah.
Yeah. My take on why VAR called that is that the ball, if when you watch it in slow motion, I understand the idea on why they called it a penalty. The ball was across the line. A majority of the player's body was across the line. The feet were not.
Right.
And so I think, in my opinion, VAR looked at this and said 97% of this dude's body's across the line. They would have been across the line the last little bits had the Atlanta United player not come in to stop the motion. The ball was already rolling, penalty. Now, I'm also of the opinion that if you think that's a penalty, then why did Hyman not get a card? If you think it's a penalty, you really think it's a penalty, and I think, it looked like it was a pretty clear shot to goal. Otherwise, flash the red if you think it's a penalty. If you think that's the case. I get that you couldn't throw a yellow card there, obviously, because of the rules. But to me, I understand the idea behind why they called it. I disagree with the call in general, though. And with that, I'll kick it over to Jarrett. It was one of those calls that on some nights it goes your way and you're thrilled that it goes your way. And this is one of those nights where it just didn't. And I think it goes to VAR and Pinso in general. And I know that everyone on the call probably has their thoughts on Pinso.
Mm-hmm. It's as far as the penalty goes, I think it was one of those that when they went to VAR, I kind of part of me kind of expected them to overturn it.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't sure they should, because I thought it was one of those where I wasn't necessarily sure if it was clear or obvious. And when I looked at it, I thought that's one of those that whatever gets called on the field is probably going to stand. Like, had they called it a penalty, I didn't think there was enough there to say it's not. But at the same time, I wasn't sure there was enough there to make it a penalty if you called it a free kick. But they did. Nothing you can do about that. Heel steps up, buries it, and then it's 2-1, and then you're right back chasing the game.
And, you look at the Brandon Bye on Moreno contact that made it 1-1. And for me, that one was a fairly easy one, at least in my mind, to make because of Brandon Bye making the contact with Marcelino Moreno. And for the full disclosure, I was in a rather crowded viewing room when that was called. And I was basically making the point that Matt Turner is very, very good at saving penalty kick attempts. So be careful on this as you're watching it. And sure enough, Turner got a piece of it, but didn't get enough of it, and it went in the net. So I think that the call for Atlanta United with Moreno was a lot easier. And to me, that one was an easier one to call a penalty, where the other one for me, Jarrett, to your point, I was thinking that if you're going to make the call initially, it's a foul just outside the area, then that creates a very difficult situation for New England to try to get it up and over a wall and figure out what you're going to do with a set piece and something like that. But when it went to VAR, I had a gut feeling that it was going to be reversed.
I'm surprised it took them so long to take it to VAR. I'd love to see them do a breakdown of, I shouldn't say take it to VAR, take it to the monitor. I would love to see them do a breakdown this week on that game when MLS does their release, where they do the release and sometimes they let you listen to what the center ref and the VAR officials say to each other. I would love for this one to be on that, because it's a good 2 minutes from the foul to where he goes to the monitor. Like, he's already drawn the line. Atlanta's already got the wall. They've laid somebody down behind the wall. Jason's probably ripping out what little hair he has left at that point.
Yes.
And then he goes to the monitor. I would love to hear what the conversation was. I don't blame them for going to the monitor. I'm not saying they were wrong. I would just love to hear the conversation of why it took so long. If it was a matter of whoever the VAR official was saying, let me look at this for a bit, hold this up. Just because it seemed like everybody was getting ready for the free kick, and even New England seemed pretty ready to just take as a free kick, no big deal. and then it just didn't happen. So I guess I would love to hear the communication there, because I have no problem with them sending it to the monitor there. But one of the things that MLS does really well that I like is when they let us hear those sorts of things. They don't always do it, which tease me off, because generally they don't do it in situations where they don't look good. So this one, I hope that this will be one where they let us see it, let us hear what was talked about.
Yeah, the penalty against Moreno looked that to me, that was very clean. It was a very clean call. With the penalty against Hyman, it looked to me like, again, I can understand the logic behind the call. I disagree with it, but right. I can follow the train of thought. I will say that Penso in general was very inconsistent.
Yes.
And I will say that the card at the beginning of the game absolutely changed the game. And it was one of those situations where now Atlanta seemed to be getting called for every ticky-tack foul that happened. And it was like, okay, well, who's the next guy who's going to get a card? But this is not why Atlanta lost this game. As much as I want to put it on Penso and say, yeah, Penso, you're a bum. You were inconsistent, and which is the worst thing an official can be in my mind. It's not. The loss is not his fault. It looked not only to be tired legs, it looked to be tired minds to me. That the passes were either late or behind where they needed to be. They were off target. They were poorly timed. You were, again, lofting crosses into a very crowded 18. Bruce Arena has no trouble at all parking a bus when he has to.
Absolutely clogged the middle of the pitch.
Yes. But here's the thing. Philly did it. New England's done it. The word is out that this is how you stop Atlanta. You clog the middle and you make them loft it up, because Atlanta has a bunch of Smurfs and they're not going to be able to put anyone back there with any sort of size, and you're going to knock it away. And then you can start your counter, because Atlanta's going to be pressed high and you're going to get the ball. You're going to distribute very quickly, and then you're on your way. That is the recipe for beating Atlanta. Philly's done it. Atlanta's done it. Philly's done it. New England's done it. And the next team that we play will probably end up doing it. Philly's going to do it again. So I understand that there may not be a ton of tactical shifts. Please, for the love of God, let's work on cracking that wall in the middle. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Mr. Heinz, utilize your players and break down that wall. We have to find a different way of attacking that. And I understand that it's going to be different with Joseph on the field, a fully fit Joseph. A lot of players will probably be more comfortable with those incisive passes that are short, swift passes that Joseph can get a hold of, immediately turn and fire. I understand that time is coming, but for the time being, we have to figure out something besides work it up the outside and hoist it in, because we don't have the size at the back end to allow that to happen, to take advantage of that. And Kubo Torres is not an athlete capable of doing that anymore. Love the guy, love his work ethic, but if you're going to be one of the smaller guys going against a larger back line, you must be able to change direction violently. And that's one thing Joseph Martinez is able to do, is change direction violently and immediately put power behind the ball, or create enough separation with his first two steps that the defense now has to make a decision whether or not they're going to make a very risky foul, or Joseph gets the shot off. And so Kubo Torres isn't capable of doing that. And I know that there are a lot of people who are already trying to give Gabriel Heinze grief, and there are some people out there who gave us grief because we said, give Frank time. I'm going to say the same thing for Gabriel Heinze. You got to give Gabriel Heinze time.
I told people to give Gabby time too. We talked
right.
about this in preseason.
Right. And just because you look good and it looks like everything's cooking with gas in Atlanta's second in the league in possession. I think I saw this stat. That doesn't mean that it's all come together yet. And Cubo Torres is not the guy who's going to be the one who's going to light it up for you. If Cubo Torres came out tonight and he dropped a brace, point me to the person who put money on that one. They're going to be a multimillionaire because no one expected that. And I would have loved to have seen a different option up top, but we had what we had. And Joseph, I think we want him back as quickly as possible. You don't want to rush him back.
And you're also looking at Philly midweek for leg 2.
Right. And even if we even if we say that we're not going to win against Philly, man, Roma did it against Barcelona. Anything's possible. And take it from someone who has had substantial leg injuries. You think you're okay, and then you go to pick up like a very simple task. I have 2 torn quads, right? One of my quads I thought was A-okay. I bent down to pick up a bag of charcoal and retweaked it. Just a bag of charcoal, like not even a
I'm
big
so
bag
proud
of
of you
charcoal.
for using charcoal and not gas, by the way. I'm so proud of you.
Hey, I do what I can on these things.
It might be related. I'm not even joking
It
anymore.
could be. It could be.
There's enough Paulding County in both of our lives. This is very possible.
It is very, very possible. but the point goes to that you think you're okay, and then the smallest issue, if you're not completely healthy, can re-aggravate these injuries. And Joseph, we want to make sure is 100% good to go. Trust the sports science people. That's what I said at the beginning of the show. I'm a dude at home watching on a TV. I don't have access to the spreadsheets of data that the sports science guys produce. And I promise you it is spreadsheets because I have seen a redacted version of this stuff before. The amount of data is insane. Trust the sports science people. If they said, hey, coach, you got to do some heavy rotation here, and they're not going to be ready to go, and you got to trust the word for it. But tonight it did look like tired minds, tired legs. That's why we lost this match, and we hope that the guys who went out to play Tulsa, hey, we hope they're able to come back in and reintegrate to the team. Was it Tulsa or Oklahoma City? The twos.
Oklahoma City this go round, and as we're talking, and the live to tape nature of programming, sometimes they've started the second half. The starting 11 was interesting.
Podcasting is a visual medium.
Yes, and it was an interesting starting 11 and an interesting lineup across the board that made the trip to OKC. And we'll get into that in the twos review, which will come out later this weekend. So just
Brandon Lamb's in the game. Ronald Hernandez is on the bench. The guy everybody wanted to start ahead of Brooks Lennon because Brooks Lennon literally gets zero respect in this town.
Yeah.
Which is absurd. It's absurd. I mean, the guy can play. The guy can play really well.
The guy who hit the cross that freed up Marcelino Moreno to earn the penalty. The guy whose leg, who literally has his stamina set on 99.
Yes. And just for a public record, Matthew DeGeorge on Twitter, as we get into the Twitter timeline and what folks thought, we can talk about that as we hit the 2/3 marker here on the show. Matthew DeGeorge says, so before Union Twitter does what Twitter does, let me offer the records of the 5 CCL quarterfinalists from MLS. Portland 1-0-1, and they're getting crunched. They're down 2 goals to Dallas with 20 minutes to go, and they've given up 3. Toronto's 0-1-1. Columbus 0-0-2. The Union are 0-2-1. Atlanta 1-1-1. So that's what you're looking at with the five CCLers here as we're talking about action tonight. So let's get into the timeline here and let folks say what's on their minds before we get into Overreaction Monday in a very short period of time. John Nason says, Alan Franco is a DP with the raised eyebrow chin scratching emoji. So who wants that one?
I'll take it because it's from the defensive back line. A completely different animal than having a DP as an attacking mid or a winger or a striker. It's completely different. You're trying to integrate yourself and have to engage in serious communication with your back line. You have the manner of distribution, who drops, who pushes forward, who goes here and who goes where and why and when. These things all take time. And I don't believe that he was necessarily ready for, I get why Gabriel Heinze did it, probably because he had to. But to say that a starting defender and questioning whether or not the guy's a DP worthy or not, by all means, you have full right and freedom to do that. I'm just saying
it's only his second match.
Yeah, I would say, please, when it comes to defenders, give them a little bit more time than you would, because a lot of attacking midfielders and wingers are going to pass an eye test faster than a defender will, because like with Almiron, that speed, as soon as he got the ball deep near the half line, and the first time he went full throttle, everyone's eyeball shot out of their head. Tito Vialla, the first time he got the ball on the wing and he took off at full throttle, everyone's eyeballs popped out of their head. You're not going to have that same opportunity to pass an eyeball test out of the back. So everything with that is going to be timing, reading the game, communication, closing down passing lanes, applying pressure to a man in order to dispossess or to force that player to make a crappy pass, which then Sosa or one of your other defenders can scoop up and start the counter with. It's a completely different eye measurement to judge defenders by than attacking midfielders. Give this man some time.
All right. A couple of other things on the timeline. Tony L. at Off Hiatus BBC on Twitter. Jarrett says, pro referees are still and I'll clean up his word, crappiest referees in the world.
See, I think there are worse out there, but the ones that I don't like, I understand where you're coming from. I am not a Chris Penso fan. Let's just go ahead and write the thesis. And a lot of my issue with Penso has to do with the sequence in the second half where I believe it was Tejan Buchanan gets the yellow, or Brandon By, one of them gets the yellow, and then Gabriel Heinze gets the yellow. And it's a situation where Atlanta's trying to take the free kick quickly and go quickly because they're in the offensive half.
Right.
And Penso just kind of holds up the game while he writes on his card. Don't know if he's writing a love letter. Dude, you got people in your ear. You don't have to write it all down in that moment. And Atlanta's trying to go quickly. It slows the game to a crawl. New England's able to set everything. They're fine with the free kick. And Atlanta's really pissed. I don't blame them. Heinze's really pissed, and he has words with him, and Penso does what he always does. There's a reason they called him quick trigger at times. The only way Penso knows how to control a game is with cards, and that's unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable. Chris Penso's not the reason Atlanta lost, so miss me if that's basically your grand thesis off of this entire rant. He's not the reason they lost. But it's unacceptable the man keeps getting center ref assignments because he does not know how to control the game without using cards.
Right.
Whether it's on coaches, whether it is on players. He does not know how, and it's completely unprofessional and unacceptable.
The difference between pro refs, Liga MX refs, any refs out of Argentina, Brazil, UEFA, any of them, they know how to protect playmakers. This league, almost in defiance of that, says, well, forget that action. We will not. We will treat playmakers just as we would any other player on the field. And I'm sorry, the game of soccer was built around fouling the bejesus out of anyone with a remote skill because they're the ones who are going to hurt me. And so I will hurt you first by putting some studs squaw up in the middle of your ankle. Pro has to get on board with protecting playmakers. It's how this league is going to make money. It's how teams will be more attractive and pleasing to new and emerging soccer fans. You cannot have people doing 1987 Serie A tackles on playmakers and these ticky-tack, yank them down and, launch them to the ground mess and not card them. and Pro has to get on board and start protecting these playmakers. And this is coming from someone who is completely defensive minded. You must protect the playmakers.
This is coming from someone who has never seen a tackle and gone, it's maybe a yellow.
That might be a yellow.
He did the Booker T missile dropkick from 1998, but that's a yellow.
That's right. That might be. But anything short of RKO, I'm like, all right, we'll let that go. But to me, that's the issue with Pro. That's why Pro's terrible, because they don't do that. They don't protect playmakers, and that's something they have to start doing.
All right, rapid fire to wrap up, since we're going into extra time here on salty takeaways and bitter ends. Nathan Pugh, while the game was still going on, says, at least Philly is losing. F Philly, they lost. Edmund Gibson.
Philly got bigger problems than that. Jose Martinez dropped the
bionic, the dusty,
as long as we're going to
bionic
drop,
elbow.
Yeah, as long as we're going to bring out old wrestling terms, he did the bionic elbow, the Randy Savage elbow drop. He dropped an elbow in Castellanos' face. It's going to earn him at least another game or 2 or 3.
Yeah,
that was I love Jose Martinez, but that was completely Bush League and unacceptable.
Absolutely. Edmund Gibson says, not good enough tonight, Nick. The aggression and intensity from the last 2 matches was AWOL. Not good versus New England's intensity. Almost every cross was overcooked. Hope Barco and Dom's knocks aren't serious. Penso gets a 5.3 rating.
Penso, in my mind, gets like a 2.2 rating, but that's beside the point. I will say that, no, the intensity was not there. The crosses were overcooked. That's why I said earlier in the show that it was tired, not just tired legs, but tired brains. We cannot forget the fact that soccer is a mental sport, not just a physical sport. And if your mind is overcooked as well, then you will be misplaying passes and things that seem to be very elementary for a player of that skill level. It's going to look like suddenly you're trying to do 3D chess in space. It just goes right out the window. So I will say the one thing that concerned me was the usage of all 5 subs very quickly. That to me was something where my eyebrows kind of shot up. That would be the one thing if I had a question to ask Gabriel Heinze, I would ask about the tactical need for the 5 subs, the 4 of the subs anyway. For obviously for Dom, that made a lot of sense, but. Right. But for the rest of them, that to me was concerning. But yeah, I would not expect a ton of aggression and things like that, guys. It's again early season. They're not at full fitness yet. They're playing no matter how in shape you are walking into a season. When you do regular season and CONCACAF Champions League, it is a shock to the body. It's a shock to the mind. That workload, it will come. Don't worry.
Shiva says the beautiful soccer didn't exist tonight. I want the CCL journey to end so we can work on our soccer and win some games. Today we look tired and sloppy. We've been talking about this show. Kyle Kessler. Penso's going to Penso. Other than the Conway goal against Club America last year, no real goals from the run of play. Barco Galazzo the exception. At some point, you have to wonder if we have the players to do it or if it's just a new system and coach and it clicks by summer. Kyle, I am of the thought that it is going to be the latter. Once again, it's just you're building into a system, and the growth of the team, they will get better as the season goes along, and they get into the playoffs, and then you're chasing after MLS Cup at that point. Next season, I think that if everything continues to evolve the way that it does, that's when you're looking out of the blocks to win MLS Cup. Emilio Corsi. I've given Barco the benefit of the doubt way more than most of the fan base, but I've officially given up on him. Not even going to ask how he is, not because I don't care, but he'll just miss his annual extended period of time.
Hey, don't know about that. My question is, what were you expecting from Barco? That is my return question. What were you expecting from Barco? And I'm sorry, I jumped right in on that one. I should have.
No, that's all good. No,
if that's about where I'm going with it.
Yeah, look, you have teams that whenever the rumored valuation was between 15 to 20 million, were calling Atlanta about Barco. The guy has received interest from overseas, allegedly, and they're not doing that for people who are bums. I'm sorry. There's not even mid-table pre-COVID teams did not have walls of cash to throw around on bums. So they're going to try to get players who can be transformative in nature. Again, in MLS, they do not protect their players. They do not protect playmakers. That kid, he's not too much. He's about my size. Probably about 5'5", maybe a $130, a $140. A stiff breeze, a few leaves from falling trees, and a mockingbird flying over is probably going to take him to the ground. And in that manner, he's going to draw fouls. So you see what he's capable of. He was young. He was immature when he first got here. He made a really dumb decision, and he paid for it significantly. Since then, from what we understand, he's been a model employee. I don't know what else you want from the guy. He's not Miguel Almiron. That's not who he is. And I know we want clones of Miguel coming through the door.
Yeah, those don't exist.
No,
I don't know how to explain this to people. Clones of Miguel Almiron don't exist. That's why he went for 25, 30 million. You don't find Miguel Almiron's like at a Five and Dime or a Woolworths.
No,
you just don't.
No, work ethic, speed, and talent in that and for that price does not exist. I'm sorry. And Barco has done, I think, a lot to maintain the DP level status. The way he moves with the ball is fantastic. The way that he distributes the ball is fantastic. You can see the lightning bolts that he can unfurl when he wants to. We're talking about a player who's now on his third manager, third different system, third different set of responsibilities.
Think about all the quarterbacks that we look at in college football where they have new coaches and new offensive coordinators every single time out.
Yes. Who was the kid from Auburn? Who was the quarterback?
Jason Campbell.
Yes, Jason Campbell. The kid displayed
most country human being on earth.
He displayed all the talent in the world, and it was coordinator after coordinator after coordinator after coordinator, and the kid had to learn new system after new system after new system, and we never got to see who this kid was. And we knew that Tata was leaving. Okay, we knew it, but then Frank came in, and Frank was one failed close down away from taking Atlanta to a back-to-back MLS finals. Right. 2020 was a dumpster fire. Frank's gone. New manager comes in. And again, we have to look at a picture in totality, guys. We have to look at a picture in totality. If you take one small thing and you say, well, this kid's a bum, we're going to get rid of him. Good. We'll sell him for $3 million to some whatever team. They will build up his value to 15 to 25, 30 million euro and sell him for a wad of cash, and we'll just be left hanging in the bag. I don't want that. Give the kid this season to work out. But I'm sorry, Jarrett. I jumped all over it, man. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just watched Philip Goodrum score a goal to give the Twos the lead. I'm in a good mood.
Yeah, there you go. 62nd minute, 1-0 as we're taping this.
He should have had one earlier tonight, and brilliant defensive effort stopped him earlier. Good for him. Anyway.
Go ahead and wrap. Go ahead and wrap, Jarrett, with that point.
Yeah, no, it's with like Barco is not Almiron. He never was. It's a weird thing, and I know people have talked about wanting to get like an impact scoring winger in this system. It's going to be weird though because your wingers are playing so damn wide. Like, you look where Moreno is a lot of times. You work where Mulroney is, where they're playing way the hell out there on the edges of reality. And you've got guys cutting inside on them. So are you thinking more of, I want somebody who's going to take it by the reins in the position that, say, Heineman or Barco are? And I think Barco has, he was doing that early last year. Remember, he had 2 goals in 2 games last year. Pretty solidly this year. I mean, he had your Golasso, played pretty well the other night. I don't know that the expectations for Ezequiel Barco will ever actually be met, because I'm honestly not sure if people can articulate their expectations anymore for Barco.
Right.
Also, the game is different in every country, and not everybody's going to play drag race ball like this is the Eredivisie, where everybody is just like almost like when Josie Altidore went to AZ. It was just like, hey, we're going to put him somewhere where it's just like scoring all day, every day. That's not really his game. And if you think it was a mismatch to come here and play in that system, that's a conversation you can have. But don't think he's Miguel Almiron. Still be a very good player. It still has been very good. Also, he's gotten the living hell fouled out of him.
Yeah, and here's the key, guys, from a business perspective. There's a profitability factor with him. So you have to keep that in mind. Age, talent level, there's profitability involved as well.
Uncertain Times says, I like using all our players. I like depth, but too much all at once, it seems it did not work. Once again, you're looking at schedule compression. You're looking at managing 3 games in a week. And the way that the roster was constructed, it was 4 situations like this. But in a match like tonight, it's only the 6th match that this group has been in any competition. And so there's going to be those curves that you have when it comes to getting acclimated with relationships and the triangle and your respective triangle and your duties, and the flow will come. But once again, when you have the roster size that you have, it is a luxury and a benefit. But once again, you're looking at multiple schedules, multiple competitions in a very short period of time. Let me finish with Gustavo, guys, and everyone who has come into the timeline. It is awesome. We will hang on to it until Overreaction Monday. Here's Gustavo. Hola, Gustavo.
Hola, Gustavo.
Gustavo says a top team is top because people demand it and the front office tries to deliver. People complain because Atlanta United is a big team and it's no longer enough to play nice. You have to play well. Some want all that immediately, and with hindsight, it's not going to be like that. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
No, Gustavo makes good points. There's an expectation level with Atlanta United that clearly, there's a bar and there's a standard that people want met. And I will say that when it comes to meeting a particular standard, do not expect it to be met immediately. The idea is to meet the standard at the end of the season when it comes who's making the playoffs, who's in line for Supporters Shield, whatever that looks like, and who looks not just to be able to make the playoffs, but be dangerous and possibly make a run. That's when I want the standard to be met. I don't care about the standard right now. It does not matter to me right now. I don't care about CONCACAF Champions League right now. I don't care about dropping a game to New England at this point. I want everyone to get healthy. I want there to be chemistry. And then when I have that, and I start to see progress toward that standard being met, I'm a happy camper. And whenever we meet that standard as a dangerous team come playoff time and to make a run for an MLS Cup, then I am thrilled that we have met that standard. But please try to gauge not only, we can all agree what the standard should be, but when should that standard be met? Keep that in mind, please.
Jarrett, wrap us up.
I feel like we talked about this back in the day. Maybe I'm crazy. This was not going to be an instantaneous thing. Sure, there's going to be good and bad. Losing 3-0 the other night was very unfortunate. It's also a result that is entirely possible with this system, especially as we've seen, where even when everything is going well, you're playing up the field. You're going to give up opportunities. You're also going to create opportunities when everybody's healthy and everybody's good and everybody's on the same page. We've seen the miscommunication. Nick and I did 30 minutes talking about miscommunication after the damn Philly game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to have those moments of miscommunication. You're going to have those moments of imperfection, and it comes with putting in a new system. It's not going to be perfect, and it's especially as hell not going to be perfect when you're in the middle of COVID times. Like, even if it's not like the start of the pandemic, like when Stephen Glass literally wasn't able to train with his team, even if it's not that bad, it's still tough to put something into place. And you're playing, and I mean, look at the teams you've been playing, by the way. You played Orlando, who's in the second year of their project, Oscar Pereira, who is, a noted sociopath in a loving way with his system and his structure. You played Chicago, who's in their second year of their setup. You played Philadelphia, and Jim Curtin is one of the most underrated somehow still with what he has set up there, with his philosophy, with his culture. You played Bruce Arena, and Nick, I know your feelings on Bruce, but he has been there for a couple of years now. It's
Mhm.
entrenched at this point.
That's fact.
You have had to play teams in situations where they've got the cultures entrenched. You're still trying to put yours in place. It was never going to be easy. It doesn't mean you have to roll over and shrug your shoulders and say, well, we'll get them next time, Slugger, and it's okay if we lose games. No, of course you're not going to feel that way. You wouldn't be human if you did.
You're right.
But I think you got to understand that you got to at least make a little bit of peace with the fact that it's going to happen, unfortunately. It sucks, but there might also come a game where you could have them come out next weekend and play like you did in Leg 1 of Philly, except all those shots go in and it's like 4-0 at halftime. It's just the way it works.
Yep.
Also, John Gallagher is loved in Austin, and I'm so happy for him.
No doubt. He is Jarrett Smith. He is Nick Alifi. I'm John Nelson. Thanks to everybody who has been a part of the timeline here with the Salty Takeaway, which turned out to be a bitter end with the loss in New England. We will hold on to what you folks have sent us if we didn't get to address it here in the 30-plus minutes here for this particular version of the show, as we are taking what everyone has to heart on an Overreaction Monday as well. And we will be back with you for more Salty Takeaways and hopefully not as many bitter ends after Leg 2 against Philadelphia at Subaru Park for CONCACAF Champions League midweek. Guys, that's another round of the show. Nick, send us home.
Mucha, mucha, Euro, y'all.